Ladies and gentlemen, the Football Scoop Podcast is back, and I'm excited about this one. Whole new format today. Once again, I am joined by college football experts Zach Barnett, John Brice, but we're going rapid fire today. I'm going to throw out a bunch of offensive coordinator changes. We're talking FBS offensive coordinator changes, new offensive coordinators for the 2023 season. There's a bunch of them, and I'm looking for rapid fire reactions. I am not looking for you guys to be soft. We bring on experts because these dudes know way more about college football than most other humans on the planet. These guys know what they're talking about. I will opine as well because I think it's fun. And we're going to have fun with that. We're going to jump right in. Here's what we're going to do today. There's a page on Football Scoop. If you're listening to this, you're aware of it. It's called The Scoop. It's the greatest page on the internet. At the bottom of each day, we have a little link to FBS offensive coordinator changes, defensive coordinator changes, and a bunch of other things. We're going to use that offensive coordinator change page as our guide here. 60 offensive coordinator changes out of roughly 130 programs. That's a lot, boys and girls. Let's jump right in. Let's go alphabetical. Power 5. I'm going to start at the top. It's Alabama. Tommy Rees is in town. We talked about it the other day a little bit. Just give me quick thoughts. Zach, I'm going to you first.
It's weird that you were at Notre Dame, which was unbelievable. Usually the number one program in college football, but now you're stepping up to the big leagues, Tommy Rees, and I hope you're ready.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Zach. Tommy did a great job in his 3 years atop the offense at Notre Dame, not Alabama's first choice. And Tommy, who always seemed a little stung by the coverage he got as a Notre Dame quarterback, also was a little bit stung by some coverage and media perceptions this past season as Notre Dame's offensive coordinator. I'm telling you right now, folks, it's an entirely different world to be in the bubble as Alabama's offensive coordinator, especially coming off a teeny tiny title drought in Tuscaloosa, Titletown, and also dealing with a quarterback battle. So I think Tommy Rees is a good person for the quarterback battle because he's played the position. And as I mentioned the other day, he'll use the pieces around those quarterbacks to take pressure off of them. But this is a whole entirely different set of pressure for Tommy Rees.
Yeah, it seems like on that quarterback battle, it seems like a lot of Tommy Rees's success or failure, in a way, we're going to look back and say was determined before they took their first snap of the season, because the quarterback is going to be determinative of how this Alabama offense goes.
We are in March of 2023. We will go back and listen to this in March of 2026, and everybody will say, man, Scott really nailed that. Tommy Rees is going to be fantastic at Alabama. I'm not sure about the first 2 or 3 games. It takes him a little bit. I think Tommy is going to be a fantastic offensive coordinator at Alabama, and I think he has a big next step in his career coming thereafter, and it'll be interesting to see where that is. I'm moving us along. Arkansas. We got Dan Enos coming back. How do we like that?
It's interesting that he's back because he was there for the Brett Bielema borderline erotic extravaganza and didn't really. I don't remember that ending well for anyone all involved, and obviously was in line to be Alabama's coordinator. That didn't happen. So his first game against the Tide will be fun.
Yeah, I think it's a smart move. I think that Arkansas probably is not going to be nearly as entertaining as what it was under Kendall Briles, but I also think that could ultimately result in 1 or 2 more wins for the Hogs. I think that's something that Sam Pittman was very mindful of. I would also contend that Sam Pittman made this hire because he knows Dan Enos, he trusts Dan Enos, and he doesn't want to be in a position of having staff turnover in those key positions every year. Obviously, losing Barry Odom as well has put this Arkansas program at a real important juncture for Sam Pittman, who I think has done as good a job aggregate since he got to Arkansas as just about any coach hired in that same time frame anywhere in college football. But I think this is a smart, stabilizing move for Arkansas, even if it maybe doesn't yield as exciting an offense for fans to watch.
I'm with Brice. I think it's a good move. Stabilizing for the program. Agreed. I think it's a good move. Auburn had no legitimate offense discernible that we could find last year. They bring in Philip Montgomery, who I think is a great offensive mind. Did just unbelievable things at Baylor. Tulsa, it was hit or miss, but I think he's got a brilliant mind. Pair that with Hugh Freeze. Whoo, buddy, I think this is a lights out potential combination. So I'm big bullish on Auburn. Thoughts?
Yeah, when Tulsa was good, they absolutely just ran over people. And obviously Baylor in the Briles years took the Big 12 by storm and won that conference 2 years in a row. So the potential here, and we know the potential of the Auburn program, and we know Hugh Freeze knows ball and knows how to put points on the scoreboard. So the potential here is sky high.
Agreed. And also, I would look to other teams in that SEC Western Division. And we saw that Texas A&M a year ago was as putrid on offense as Auburn was, really. And then we're also just discussed the fact that Alabama is going to be shifting gears a bit under Tommy Rees and also going through a quarterback battle. I would contend that Auburn's ability to implement this offense of Hugh Freeze and Montgomery and potentially playing with some tempo could be an even more significant advantage for them based on the dynamics within the rest of the SEC's Western Division this year.
Clemson, they went big. They went Garrett Riley. They called for the hot guy in the country, and they got it done. What do you think? I like the move personally. I think it's an upgrade for Clemson football.
I think it's unbelievable. I think that as we sit here right now, I would rank it the number one offensive coordinator hire of the offseason, both for what we've seen Garrett Riley do and because of the message Dabo Swinney sent in the process of not being afraid to make a necessary change after just 1 year and also not being afraid to go outside of the, quote, Clemson family for the first time really under Dabo Swinney. So to me right now, sitting here today, the middle of March, it's the best offensive coordinator hire of the offseason.
I agree with y'all. I think it said so much about Dabo. He seemed to be loyal to a fault, emphasis on fault in these past few years. But when Clemson got good, it's when he went out and brought Venables, brought Chad Morris, brought their systems to Clemson, and we saw the results. So this was the move of the winter for me.
Agreed. It feels like a Chad Morris offense style coming back in, when that was the hot thing. I love it. I love the simplicity. I love the quick reads, the progressions, get it out and go. It's innovative. It's hard to defend. I love all these things. All right. Colorado is very different. Sean Lewis, a sitting head coach, said, all right, I got to get out. I haven't been able to get a Power 5 head coaching job. I'm going to go with Deion Sanders. And if I have a great season, 2 great seasons, 3 great seasons, who knows where this takes me? He's betting big on himself. The media fawn over Sean Lewis. The results haven't always been there, obviously. And he interviewed for a lot of jobs and never got one. So I don't know. This one's interesting to me. I just don't know what's going to happen.
I agree with a lot of that. I think it says a lot about Deion that he got someone like a Sean Lewis to trust him with his career. And I know there's a lot of Sean betting on himself here, but I think it says a lot about Deion's ability to get people to believe in him and what he's doing. And it's when he took that job, I was like, okay, this is real. This is happening. This has potential to be a capital A, capital T, a thing in college football in a major way. So I think it says a whole lot about Deion's ability to get the right people in the boat.
No hyperbole. It's the number 2 coordinator hire of the offseason for me, behind Garrett Riley. I think it's that significant. It's absolutely a huge coup for Deion to get this guy that, let's emphasize this really quickly. Sean Lewis believed and folks in his program had said, hey, we're going to Cincinnati. He believed he had that job, okay, until the very last minute when that job ended up going to Satterfield because he wanted to reset the clock after a nice season at Louisville. So he was on the verge of getting that first breakthrough Power 5 head coaching job. When that dissolved, Deion was able to pounce. I think it's a huge hire. I think, again, Deion did great things at Jackson State. There's no denying that. But he just coached 2 full seasons at Jackson State. He's still inexperienced as a collegiate head coach. Sean can help with that. I think it's a huge move for Deion Sanders, for Sean, and for college football.
I think it's really good for college football when Deion's teams are good, which obviously they've been really good the past couple of years. It just brings energy. It brings a new way of thinking. It opens people's minds to, okay, it doesn't have to be done one way. And so I hope they thrive. It'll be fun to watch. All right. I thought Todd Monken was probably the best offensive coordinator in college football for the past couple of years. He's gone, and they went Mike Bobo. I don't know, guys. I'm not. Maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully, I'm wrong. I'm not as positive on this one as some others.
There's a clear comfort level there that's obvious with Kirby bringing Bobo back, and I would point to the fact that Georgia also is preparing for a complete reset at the quarterback position, and I think that's significant as well. So I think that probably factored tremendously into Bobo's return as Georgia's offensive coordinator. We'll see. Mike did some great things. I had this debate with the college coach earlier this week, and I was probably a little more, I wouldn't say negative, but skeptical of the move at this point in time. And this guy reminded me how many points that Georgia always scored under Mike Bobo. And I said, that's true. But Georgia also had tremendous talent at that time and still had some games where it slipped up noticeably. So I think that's a couple of key elements to consider. But I would stress the fact that I believe this move was made a lot with comfort in mind, with the ability to know that Kirby can trust what Mike wants to do and trust him to handle the quarterback competition at the University of Georgia.
I think it's a move that if Georgia had hired promoted a quarterback named or a coordinator named Mike Johnson with a parallel resume to Mike Bobo, everybody'd say, okay, yeah, makes sense. But the fact that it's Mike Bobo, that he's been there so long and is such a fraught relationship with that fan base, like if it doesn't go well, I think they're going to turn it up more than they would just because it's Mike Bobo. So I think it's Kirby being comfortable, but it's also Kirby, I think, spending some of his capital, some well-earned capital with the fan base if this doesn't go well.
Yeah. A lot of thoughts on that one. Might have to dive deeper into that one another time. Kentucky makes a very smart move, bringing Liam Cohn back. They were just really, really good when he was there. And then Scangarello came in and it just didn't click, and they had injuries and it just got off track. I think this is a great move for Kentucky football.
Yeah. Go ahead, Zach.
Kind of like Kentucky football itself, I don't think the nation has talked about what a slam dunk move this was. Like you don't often see an assistant coach level up out of your position and then get him back 1 year later. And then they got the Devin Leary transfer from NC State. So they have the potential to be very, very good, very, very quickly.
Yeah, I agree. I think Liam Cohen is a future head coach, whether that's at the NFL level or the Power 5 college level. I think it's a significant move for Kentucky, especially coming off of a season in which Kentucky, by its own set goals, vastly underachieved.
I mean, it seems like the type of move that if someone were to, list out their candidates on a Kentucky message board and start with Liam Cohen, he would get shouted down with, "Come on, dude, he's not coming back here." And then he came back here.
Yeah. And there was some of that.
Mark Stoops did a great job convincing him and making it happen. Agreed. All right, so we're talking about Kentucky. Might as well talk about Louisville. It's a different situation, right? Satterfield's crew, Lance Taylor. Satterfield's out. Lance Taylor moves up to Western, and the Brom family comes in. Got to be exciting, right? Got to be.
Best possible hire at this time. I mean, Louisville needed Jeff Brom so bad, and timing is everything in life, and the timing worked out, and I can't imagine a better hire for Louisville.
Yeah, I completely agree. I can't really even add anything to that. It's what Louisville needed at a crossroad time for the program. That's the favored son coming home, the favored family coming home. It's significant.
Yeah. We talked about how we feel Enos to Arkansas is a good thing. I also think change from Maryland is a good thing. And I think Gaddis going there is a good thing. So Josh Gaddis is a new guy there, back with Loxley, working hand in hand together. I think Gaddis will really call – it's going to be Gaddis's offense, I believe, rather than Locke's offense, which thrived together at Alabama. I think this is a good move for Maryland. I think it's a good fit.
Yeah, it's a lot of pieces that worked really well together at Alabama with Locks and Gaddis, and then obviously the Tagovailoa family tree at quarterback. I mean, those three pieces worked really well together at Alabama. So getting them back together at Maryland, obviously, two of his brothers already been there, but getting them together is a great move, I think, for Maryland.
Yeah, having Talia back and then having the dynamic of Locks and Gaddis together, I think it is really good. We're not knocking Dan Enos at all. I just think as the program transitions forward and Locks tries to build on the bowl success and the things that he's done, this is really good for Maryland. And the key is going to be sustaining what this program has done in this rebuild. Moving into the future, I think Josh Gaddis gives them a chance to have a little bit more oomph on the recruiting trail. So I would factor that into one of the reasons why I like this offensive coordinator move a great deal.
For Gaddis, it's really an interesting time. He won the Broyles Award when that 1 year when they were really good at Michigan, and then left. He had a couple of really down years at Michigan, had a really bad year at Miami. Needs to make this work, because if not, all of a sudden it's like, geez, he had that one good year. I don't know. Hopefully it all works out. Now, conversely, we're along the same page. Enos, we like to Arkansas. We like Gaddis there. Actually, I love the backfill at Miami. I love Shannon Dawson going there. I think that is it's got a lot of air raid, but it's got some power run game in it. Shannon also, personality-wise, works well with Mario. I think Shannon will thrive in Miami. I think this is a great hire. I think this is a significant upgrade at Miami.
I mean, air raid should be able to absolutely destroy at Miami. And I know a lot of people have said, hey, why can't Miami be better in this or that aspect for a long time now? But why can't the air raid be just devastating to people? I mean, where are you going to find more quick receivers than South Florida? Tyler Van Dyke had a great freshman year, did not have a great sophomore year, but the ability's there. I don't see why this can't work, other than it's Miami and they haven't worked for 20 years now.
Yeah, I think Shannon comes into an enviable situation. I still think there's really, really good talent on that Miami roster, and I think he can be the guy that sort of unearths that talent and is able to get it all out on the field. So I like this move as well.
So Kevin Barbay, in his first season at App State, did some, whoa, what is happening with App State in those first couple of games before some injuries slowed them down a little bit, and just the wear and tear of the season grinded on. But Kevin Barbay opened some eyes, got some people really excited about App State in that one season. He's the new guy at Mississippi State. Whole new offense, everything. We're throwing the air raid out, and we're going to say more conventional than Mike Leach is saying nothing, but it's just a totally different offense. And boy, I think there's going to be some growing pains there. I think Barbay is really smart, really good ball coach. I just think there's going to be some serious growing pains at Mississippi State.
Agree. I mean, you go from Mike Leach, who's one of the most beloved figures in college football history, on top of that, an experienced head coach, to a rookie head coach, defensive-minded head coach, totally different offense. So, I mean, they're going to be the clear pick for number 7 in the SEC West, are they not?
Maybe, yeah, pretty close to it. I do like the move, but I would also say it might be one of the toughest offensive coordinator moves of any that we have discussed or will discuss today on this podcast. For all the reasons you guys outlined, Mississippi State will definitely try to slow things down and play a different style of football, and they go from having arguably the second most innovative offensive-minded head coach in modern college football history, second only to Steve Spurrier, in my opinion, to a completely defensive-minded head coach. So interesting hire, compelling hire, and kudos to Barbie for being willing to wade into the fray and take on a very difficult task.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough go there, in my opinion. Nebraska, Matt Rule comes in, brings Marcus Satterfield. Those two are thick as thieves. It's a modestly complex offense. It took them some time, but they found a little groove at South Carolina in certain games. It's different, and again, I think that's going to take a while as well.
Which is, I mean, I saw a quote from Matt Rule yesterday that said that the university has provided, every resource we could possibly have to go out and win in a big way. And we're trying to match that with our work ethic. So, we're into it's the honeymoon phase of the Matt Rule era. and obviously he's going to have a long leash there. But the investment is clear, and so the pressure is going to be commensurate with that. So yeah, it's going to take a long time, but it needs to work, and it needs to work. Maybe not in 23, but it needs to work.
Yeah, I was literally about to say the exact same thing, Zach, in terms of maybe it doesn't have to show up specifically in wins and losses in 23, but you have to feel like that you're seeing an offense that you can build or rebuild that program around moving into the future. And I think that's going to be a critical element of Marcus Satterfield joining Nebraska's staff. As you noted, Scott, Satterfield's best games at South Carolina as the offensive coordinator came basically last November. And I think that those two were probably headed for a split in that union regardless. So this is a good thing for all parties involved.
Timing is everything.
Let's talk North Carolina State. So Phil Longo leaves North Carolina, goes to Wisconsin. They bring Chip Lindsey. That's a change. That's a real change in personalities, who those guys are and what they believe in an offense. I think North Carolina has an incredible quarterback. So I have a lot of confidence they'll figure it out. I don't know where I stand on Chip Lindsey as the guy, but I trust Drake May, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know that Chip Lindsey has ever really, happened at at the major college level. Like, he's a Gus Malzahn, believes in him and his ability. Big fan of Chip Lindsey, Gus Malzahn is, but I don't know that the rest of us have ever seen in Chip Lindsey what Gus sees in him. Does that make sense? And so he's going to have maybe the best quarterback he's ever worked with in Drake May. So, to borrow a term from the 2005 classic Mean Girls, Chip Lindsey needs to happen at North Carolina. We need to see what Gus sees in him.
I'm so glad you're on this show, Zach. Thank you.
I'm so glad I'm not the one quoting Mean Girls. I feel like it's hard to unpack and come back from that, from willfully quoting Mean Girls. Like, blink, do something, raise one eyebrow if somebody's off camera that we can't see. But please, for the love of everything, don't quote Mean Girls on a dang college football podcast. All right.
I have no shame about quoting Mean Girls. Mean Girls is great.
That's not helping your case. Telling me you have no shame is not helping your case, Zach, and I love you. Yeah, this one's intriguing to me. Now, can Chip maybe help North Carolina be a little bit more balanced and take some pressure off the defense? I thought it was very telling this week when Mac Brown said, the narrative on us is on defense, we can't stop the run, we can't stop anybody. And then he paused and sort of said, you know what, basically that's correct too. We've not done anything to disprove that. And so does this offensive coordinator hire help North Carolina on both sides of the ball? I think that will determine a lot of the success of this move.
Agreed. NC State, I believe, upgraded. Tim Beck did a fine job. Now the head coach at Coastal Carolina. Robert Anae comes in from Syracuse. I'm just a big fan of his style of ball. He'll overwhelm you on the ground game, but boy, he's not afraid to be innovative in the pass game as well. I think he and Jeff Grimes kind of same style, I think. And I'm excited to see what NC State does, because I think NC State's been NC State for so many years, and you want to see them become dominant. It would be so much fun.
Yeah, I agree with a ton of what you said, Scott. I think offensive line guys are underrepresented statistically in that promotion to head coach. And so to see an offensive line guy succeed, or promotion to coordinator, so to see a guy succeed at the coordinator spot from the offensive line is great to see. And I'm a fan of this move.
And the other thing is, I think this is a move that's significant as NC State transitions away from the Devin Leary era. And so if you're going to make this move, I think it's a good time now, because you can kind of reformat your offense in the way you want to, and you're starting afresh with a new quarterback. So I do think that is a very significant component of this. Again, as we examine some of these moves, very similar in some of those dynamics in terms of resetting at the quarterback position, as we talked about at Alabama and Georgia, and now also NC State.
All right, Notre Dame lost Tommy Rees. They wound up promoting Jared Parker. I'll tell you why I like what's happening. when Brian Kelly leaves, you have offense coordinator, defense coordinator. Defense coordinator becomes the head coach. Offense coordinator is convinced to stay. They were equals as coordinators. Now one's the boss, but the OC just kind of said, hey, I got this. So now he's gone, and now Marcus can work a little, in my opinion, more closely with the offensive staff, offensive identity, and really form what he wants out of Jared Parker's offense, working closely with him. So I'm excited. I mean, this is, hey, all of our eggs are in with Marcus Freeman. We believe in the man. All right, let's go get it done. So I like this idea. I'm anxious to see what they produce, but I like the idea, and I hope it's very successful.
I like the idea on a number of levels, and they start with the fact that there's a natural bond between Jared Parker and Marcus Freeman, and these are guys that have both told me individually over the last 12 months before this move ever happened. They've recounted to me how they carpooled together when they were on staff together at Purdue. And they talked all the way back then about working together with one as the head coach and one as the coordinator. And here it is, Marcus in that role and Jared as the OC. So I like it for all of those reasons. I like it because another important reason is Jared Parker is such an everyman and just relates so well to people that I don't just think his players are going to play really hard for him. I know from speaking with coaches on the Notre Dame staff right now that they want to see Jared Parker succeed. They have an investment there to see Jared Parker succeed. And then my final point would be that Marcus also, and we wrote about this Wednesday, I guess because today's Thursday, I don't know. We wrote about this Wednesday on the site that Marcus came out and not only publicly verified what we had already reported after he was asked point blank about a couple of guys were interviewing with the Ravens in addition to Brian Mason getting that Colts job, but he said, hey, people came after all 10 of my assistant coaches. That was a pretty big statement right there. But Marcus makes this move knowing there's virtually no scenario a year from now that we're talking about yet another new Notre Dame offensive coordinator. And when you look at things, that's really key for this program moving forward. I think Notre Dame should be a college football playoff team this fall. Notre Dame people would tell you they expect that with Sam Hartman, 2 future first-rounders on the offensive line, multiple NFL running backs, on and on and on. But then this is important for the transition beyond this year. And especially when you look at, okay, in 2020, Notre Dame had Clark Lee as defensive coordinator. Now, obviously, the Vanderbilt head coach. They bring in Marcus Freeman. He's defensive coordinator for 21. He hires Al Golden. Now you got Al Golden as defensive coordinator. A lot of people expect this will be Al Golden's last year at Notre Dame, and he'll either get a head coaching opportunity or NFL coordinator opportunity. So Marcus makes this move knowing he can stabilize the offensive side of the ball, plus believes in what it can do for him on the field.
Yeah, I mean, when Notre Dame has made playoff games and big BCS games, the biggest gulf between them and the SEC powers has been quarterback. And as of right now, I would take Notre Dame's quarterback over Alabama's, over Georgia's, over Clemson's, over LSU's. So that's been solved, at least in my eyes, here on March 23rd. So John's statement that Notre Dame expects to be a playoff team raised my eyebrows. So it's going to be fun to watch them this fall.
And I somewhat agree with you on the quarterback element in 18 and 20. Certainly going against Trevor Lawrence with Ian Book, there's an obvious advantage there for Trevor Lawrence and Clemson, or for Alabama and Brice Young versus Ian Book. But to me, it stood out more on the defensive side of the ball. I still thought that Notre Dame was much further away on the second and third levels of its defense in those competitions than it was on the offensive side of the ball. I think this is a more complete Notre Dame team on both sides of the ball moving into this fall.
I suspect that you have Gino and you have Joe Rudolph, who both called it before. So you got some really innovative offensive minds who have done this in the past, and they're in the room this spring, this summer, and they really they build their offense. It's no longer Tommy Rees's offense. This is our Notre Dame offense, and Jared just happens to be the guy calling it. But I think there's a lot of potential here. I'm bullish on this one as well. All right, now we're going from I'll say you know what it is to let's see what this is going to do. But this is massive upside. I love Ohio State going Brian Hartline to call the offense. Love it.
I mean, this guy, if he succeeds as the offensive coordinator, like he succeeded or has succeeded as the wide receivers coach, he's about to be take over the world. I mean, he's just been an outstanding wide receivers coach. So if he can run the offense like he ran that room, look out.
Well, here's another thing to consider for the perception of Brian Hartline around college football. I think it's a story we maybe reported first back when it happened. Brian Hartline was asked to interview for the Cincinnati head coaching job, conducted a Zoom with Cincinnati officials for the head coaching job, ultimately withdrew, and we don't know that he withdrew and that meant he was definitely going to be offered or not be offered, but he interviewed and he withdrew. And so what this does for me is position Brian Hartline to be totally in the spot to be heir apparent to Ryan Day whenever Ryan Day goes to the NFL. As long as Brian Hartline is successful, then the next search for Ohio State's head coach will have two candidates, and it will be Brian Hartline and it will be Marcus Freeman, and it will begin and end right there.
Well, I think it also positions Hartline to jump to the NFL in a big place. The guy he's succeeded. He's thrived all his life. He's just got it. Like when you spend time with him, you go, man, that guy's fantastic.
Yeah. There's a magnetic charisma around him. When we were with him in San Antonio, when he came to the Football Scoop Mixer on the year, I guess he probably won one of the awards. You could just tell the guy has a certain gravitas about him.
Yeah, he's agreed totally. All right, Oregon is changing. Kenny Dillingham gets the Arizona State job. Will Stein's coming up from UTSA. Yeah, so I don't know. Zach, give me some thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I mean, Will Steins was coaching high school football not all that long. I don't have but he coached Hudson Card at Lake Travis, and Hudson Card obviously went to UT, is now at Purdue. And so it was not all that long ago that he was coaching high school ball in Austin, and is now the offensive coordinator for the Oregon Ducks. So I can't sit here and say definitively how well he's going to do or not do, but I know, Jeff Traylor is a very keen eye of coaching talent and believed in him, and Will Stein paid that off because UTSA, did quite well offensively under the Will Stein regime. So great building blocks to potentially something great at Oregon.
Yeah, and I was going to reference Traylor, who's done just unbelievable work at UTSA. And if that's the guy he trusted, then I think that sends a clear message. The other thing I would say is Will Stein will be one of the guys I'm rooting for the most in college football, because I love continuing to see a little bit more and more of the high school coaches clawing through the ranks and getting their opportunities. And by and large, you can't recruit at the high school level. You have to find success or failure with the kids who live in your system or near your system. And so I think now that requires really, really darn good coaching. Now, when we get to see some of those guys at these advanced levels, it's really exciting for me. So again, he is a coach that I will be cheering for success because of the way he's climbed through the ranks.
Let's talk Purdue. So Purdue, I guess with going with Graham Harrell, they're like, hey, we're gonna stay what Purdue's offense is: wild, throw it around the yard, have a lot of fun, fast playmakers. I guess that's what they're thinking. You can't be positive on everything. I'm a little skeptical of this one, but we'll see. Obviously, I always hope for the best. I don't know. I got to see it.
Yeah, Graham did really good things at North Texas, then ended up at USC under strange circumstances, brought him to USC. Did good, not terrible, not great. At West Virginia, they were the 8th, 9th best team in the Big 12 this year. You weren't scared when West Virginia came to town this past season. So you've got Hudson Card, obviously previously mentioned, transferred in, Graham Harrell. So you have a lot of people who would professionally need to really succeed at Purdue. Hudson Card needs to be really successful at Purdue. Graham Harrell needs this. Obviously, Ryan Walters, first-time head coach. So you have potential there for success, but none of those three have really done it at the college level in a way that makes you think, okay, this is going to hit immediately.
I would liken this to the points that Zach made earlier about Chip Lindsey. So, and I can't remember if that's when he quoted Mean Girls. I'm not quoting Mean Girls here, but I do liken the Graham Harrell move to the Chip Lindsey move. It's a really critical year for Graham Harrell. I think that could work out for Ryan Walters.
It doesn't help that this week they're bringing in a new offensive line coach.
No.
Doesn't help. I don't know. I'm not. Okay. Moving on. South Carolina. Dowell Loggins coming to town. I have no idea how this is going to work out. I really have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, Dowell's got NFL experience. I think that's probably a good thing for Spencer Rattler after they got him back for another year. And I know that Spencer is eyeing trying to develop into a more bona fide NFL prospect. So I think that's good in that regard. I also think that this is a move from talking with people in Columbia that they believe will help have just a little bit more chemistry and cohesion in the building. So in those elements, I think it's important.
That's good to know. I mean, Scott, you shared an interview, I think, with us where Spencer Rattler was talking about the move from the Lincoln Riley system to the Marcus Satterfield system, and how Lincoln Riley was a 2-word play call and then go, and then South Carolina was a lot more NFL style, 15-word play calls, and it took them a minute to get comfortable with it, but by the end of the year they were clicking, and now new coordinator. So if this is going to continue the direction they were going to go, combined with what John just mentioned, then it has great potential.
You know what's interesting there is, so Kendall Briles is from that play fast, short play calls. I mean, he's one of the innovators of that. Dow, with his NFL background, obviously, that's not what he grew up with. So it'll be interesting to see what Loggins brings and implements. I have no idea. I just think that one's really it's not often I have no idea, but I've got no idea. I do agree with you in terms of what it brings inside the building, more cohesion, everybody on the same page, enthusiasms, perhaps maybe some better communication within the staff. I think that's all a good thing.
Yep.
Troy Taylor takes over. Stanford has had no offense for a while, and they just none. What happened? No idea. But wow, this is a big change. And I think this long-term is great for Stanford. They're not a place that can bring in 17 transfers. Like, they're just not. So that's not going to happen right away, but this is going to be an upgrade.
Yeah, and that's tempered with the fact that what he's taking over and a Stanford program that seemed to ride the intellectual brutality train off the tracks and into the ditch. So they're not going to be able to fix it overnight.
Mean Girls, and now you make a train off the tracks comparison. As many disasters as we've had in the country in recent weeks. You were on fire today, Zach. I'm simply going to say I really love this move for Stanford. Moving on.
Okay. So TCU loses the hottest coordinator in the country, but they backfill in a strong way, bring Kendall Briles in. Got their number one guy, got him just like that. No questions about it. Hey, I want you to come down here. Okay, I'm coming.
Yeah,
I think it's a very strong backfill. Very strong.
It's really good. It might be among the ones that should be the most seamless of these coordinator changes, especially at the Power 5 level. I also would point out TCU went and immediately got him, made it happen in a hurry. This was after Mississippi State had tried to hire Kendall Briles, and those talks, they didn't necessarily end. They just sort of reached this nebulous point. So a lot of credit to TCU.
I guess I'll be the lone dissenter here. From a football perspective, Sonny knows what he's doing. But, I go back to January. The TCU fan base, I live in the area. I watched it happen all around me. TCU people rallied around the purple flag like they never have. National championship game is what it is. Garrett Riley leaves, is what it is. And then the next move TCU, officially makes after that game is to hire Kendall Briles, who's not a popular guy for a lot of people around here. Not a popular guy specifically for TCU. TCU hates Baylor. The TCU hates Texas. They despise Baylor. They are blood rivals. Like that's, Texas is Texas, but TCU and Baylor are arch nemesis. And so to go out and hire that guy who was in a lot of people's minds, associated with the stuff that happened in the middle part of the last decade. If it goes out and it win and they go out and 11, they go 11-1, no one will care. But I think Sonny built a lot of capital with the TCU fan base very fast, and he spent a good chunk of that in bringing Kendall in. And if it works, great. But if it doesn't work, it's not going to be a popular move.
I'll spin that though. Sonny earned this capital right away. He had the best. He just had an unbelievable season, just an incredible season. So you got to give him all the leeway he deserves. And then I'll throw the curveball is, and if it doesn't work, then it's Kendall's fault. It's not Sonny's fault. I'm kind of kidding, but come on.
No, I completely agree with Scott here. I mean, that's the best season of TCU football since literally like the 1930s, Zach. Am I right?
They won the Rose Bowl in 2010.
It was a big deal.
Well, no. But I'm saying, I knew that it had not been that long under Gary Patterson since they won the Rose Bowl. But the things they did, the heights they reached, if I'm not mistaken, had literally been 7-8 decades or more. And so I don't think it's a capital expenditure in the offseason if TCU goes out and hangs 50 on Coach Prime in that early season marquee matchup, then virtually all that capital is back. And I think a lot of people know that TCU caught lightning in a bottle to finish the CFP runners-up a year ago and do some great things, and they're completely excited about the future of the program. And to your point, Zach, I will agree. There are people out there that would rather see their most detested rival lose than to see their favorite team win. I'm wearing a Braves hat today. That's the team I cheer for the most in any sport. I promise you I would rather see the Cubs lose every day than to see the Braves win every day. But I think I'm probably warped and in the minority, and I would believe that most TCU fans will end up being thrilled with Kendall Briles if they sustain and potentially even build on the success of a year ago.
Yeah, I'm not saying that none of those things are going to happen, but I'm just there's downside potential to this move.
Okay, I'm going to somewhat gloss over Tennessee because it's Heupel's offense. Golish did a great job. Golish gets the South Florida job. Joey gets promoted.
The only thing I would interject there is that a year ago when Tennessee had this breakout campaign, it was Alex's offense. He was calling 95% of the plays, if not 99% of the plays. And so this puts the onus back on Josh to be the full-time play caller with renewed expectations and in the SEC. So that, to me, is the most compelling dynamic. I also think that Joey Halsey is a future big-time coach that we're going to hear a lot about in the coming years. But this will be, as you noted, not only Josh Heupel's offense, it will be Josh calling the offense.
Yeah, game day play calling, I agree with you. It's a reversion back to where he used to be. But even though Alex was calling it, it's Heupel's offense, if you know what I'm saying. Anyway, yes, 6 one way, half a dozen the other. Got to keep rolling. A&M makes what I think is a great hire for the football team. Fascinating building experience, like within the building. Woo, buddy. Boy, you hope this honestly, you hope Hard Knocks has cameras in there, because if this gets weird, it will be an unraveling like you can't. Like, there should be legendary documentary status on this season. You want to be a beat writer on this beat.
You just stole my Hard Knocks line. I was literally about to say, forget the NFL, give me Aggies Hard Knocks.
Yes,
Hard Knocks College Station with the outside pressure already on this program. Then you have those two alpha, high-intensity personalities in your two most visible positions. Come on, man.
It's gonna be incredible. I mean, are they going to be physically fighting over the play calling sheet, or are they going to be throwing it back at one another if they go 3 and out?
How much fun? Can we get headsets? Can we get everything? This is going to be incredible. Great theater. All right, I'm moving us along. West Virginia is a big change. Graham goes to Purdue. Chad Scott takes the reins. Chad is one of the most well-liked guys out there. It'll be interesting to see how he does calling it. I have no idea. Is Neil calling it? Is Chad calling it? I don't know. I haven't really researched this one much, but Chad's a great guy.
West Virginia for a time was when West Virginia came to town, you feared that they were going to put up 50 if you didn't play great. Those days are gone. West Virginia is not feared, at least right now. So this needs to be successful. It needs to be successful close to immediately, I think, for Neil.
I like this move because he and Neil share a really deep history You maintain some continuity there. And as I alluded to earlier with the South Carolina move, I also think that this makes for healthier, more holistic staff chemistry.
Agreed. All right. Wisconsin is the last big Power 5 one I want to talk about, and then we'll open it up a little bit if you guys have got any other thoughts. Wisconsin brings Phil Longo up there. I think there is huge potential in this one. Huge. So I think this is I love Fickle. Phil Longo is a totally different stylistic human being. I just think there's a possibility the planets align on this one and they start hanging 50 again like Wisconsin used to.
Yeah, in a totally different way than they used to. The initial reaction from a lot of people was, oh, they're going to try and throw the ball more than 15 times a game at Wisconsin. Well, there's a team up the state a little bit that's played deeper into winter than the Badgers do that's done okay throwing the ball in Wisconsin air. So I think the Badgers will be good in that regard. And, Phil Longo is top of my list of guys we've got to have on this podcast this offseason.
All right. Okay.
I'd say Dougie Fresh can make that happen. I like the move. I think that there's not a lot of offensives in the Big Ten that have been doing what we saw Longo do at North Carolina. If they're able to make that transition quickly, I think that helps Wisconsin get back quicker to being a double-digit win team, able to challenge for the Big Ten division until the Big Ten does away with divisions.
In the interest of time on today's podcast, I did not cover all the Power 5, didn't get to any really group of 5. There's a bunch of other ones that are really interesting. You got Kirby Moore at Missouri. You got Spavital going back to Cal. There's a bunch of okay, that could work. That could be fun. That's an upgrade, an obvious upgrade. Any ones you guys want to touch on real fast before we shut this thing down? We're almost an hour into this thing.
Yeah, I would just quickly say Minnesota. I think that's a fascinating situation. And then I would point to write this name down. We wrote about him a couple of years ago when VMI had the most successful season in school history. Then he went to Richmond. Now he's Lance Taylor's first offensive coordinator at Western Michigan. That would be Billy Kosh. Watch him, learn that name. I promise you'll want to know it by football season.
Fun one for me to watch is Bush Hamden at Boise State, former Bronco quarterback. A lot of people bought a lot of stock in Bush Hamden and are still holding on to those checks. The Bush Hamden stock has not cashed out the way a lot of people thought it would. So to quote myself, quoting Mean Girls, is Bush going to happen at Boise State? Well, tune in.
Do a Bush Hamden NFT comparison or something. Make him Bitcoin Bush, something other than Mean Girls. Good Lord.
Don't know.
We're going to Wally Pip this guy.
The other one, the one that, Western Kentucky, this is, they go Drew Hollingshed. The family's been in football forever. Drew was at Mississippi State. There's everyone who cycles through Western Kentucky goes on to a bigger job. So, everyone. It's like they had 19 assistants hired away this year. It was amazing. Guys who had been there for a week. They're like, oh, you're Western Kentucky? We'll take you. It was just incredible. So that one's one to watch. I don't know what his offense is going to look like, but I'm pretty confident they're going to score some points, and Tyson's going to be obviously heavily involved. It'll be fun to watch. That's FootballScoop Podcast.
Oh, I was just going to say, in my head, Western Kentucky has been scoring 35 points a game and throwing for 350 yards a game for 15 years straight.
Feels like it.
No arguments. Honestly, since
it's like Brendan Dowdy or whatever his name was. Yeah.
Yeah. They were terrible before that. Probably Willie Taggart's best coaching job of all time. Moving on. We're going to end this recording, shut it down. We're going to come back with defensive coordinators early next week. We appreciate you guys listening. We have a lot of fun doing this. Hope you guys enjoy this. Feel free to send us DMs telling us how great these are. If you don't like them, don't DM us. It's no fun. We love you all. We're out.
Brice.
Peace.